Hi everyone, this video is for our 8th grade Elevate groups, lesson 37 on solving equations. Yesterday, students were solving equations, however, they were using substitution as a method to find the solution. Today, they are going to be practicing using inverse operations. So as always, we are going to start out with our introduction. It lets us know that you can solve an equation by getting the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. You use an inverse operation. So this is the one side of the equal sign. We have a variable x, and x is not by itself. Right now, x is being added to 7. So because it tells us to use inverse operations, students have to have a clear understanding of the 4 operations as well as the inverse that coincides with that operation. So they need to know that addition undoes subtraction, subtraction undoes addition, multiplication for division, and division for multiplication, right? So in this equation, if we are trying to isolate the variable, we would need to subtract 7 from both sides. Because 7 is being added, we would need to subtract 7. And we do the operation of subtraction, on both sides because we are trying to ensure that the equation remains true. So we're not altering the value of the equation, we are just rewriting it. Almost think equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios, right? Whatever you do to one side, you need to do to the other side to balance that equation. So at first, the equation came adding 7. We went ahead and subtracted 7. We know that inverse operations undo themselves. So 7 minus 7 just gives us 0. Now that x is by itself, right? And then when we did 28 minus 7, we ended up with 21. So the solution to the equation is x is equal to 21. Now, this independent practice doesn't focus too much on checking student work to see whether their equation was true. However, you definitely can highlight that for students if they are struggling. So as the teacher, you are going to model this question for them for about 6 minutes, really focusing on read, draw, write, and how they were able to create this equation based on this word problem, and then explain to them that whenever you see a variable directly next to a number, that operation is multiplication. So something you might want to ask is, okay, well, if the variable is being multiplied, how do we isolate it? Students will identify that the inverse operation for multiplication is division, so they would know that they have to divide 8 on both sides for them to end up with an answer of p is equal to 16. Right, and so if you would like to pull one question for each operation, I definitely suggest maybe doing this question so that you can model that multiplication is the inverse operation for division. No. So this entire page provides students with at-bats where they are utilizing division as the inverse operation for multiplication, if you would like to show them an example for each of the four operations, I suggest pulling questions that allow you to do so. So maybe you would like to model a subtraction question for them and an addition question for them, and then maybe even a division question for them before releasing them to their 15 minutes of independent practice time while you circulate to support.